flip me off first. Start out the podcast that way. I love it. What the fuck is up?
What's up?
How y'all doing today? I'm Hanna.
I'm Eric.
This is the Mental Moshpit.
Yes. This was a Hanna idea to start creating some community through talking to you all about our experiences. And wow, Cooper wants in on this. We have a dog that's right on our shoulder wanting to take part in this. Hi, buddy. Good to see you.
This started as a really cool idea to actually get to know us a little better, actually be able to talk to you. I know I have lip balm on, Cooper, so please don't lick my lips. But we just really want to connect with you all closer, have you guys get to know us a little better, have us just chat and talk to other people, and yeah, create a really cool community even deeper around our band and kind of what we're doing.
We all kind of had some ideas as far as band names that inspired the thought of community and of coming together. And As We Rise got thrown out into the mix. And it was the thought that the communal we would move up, level up in the world, and have the difficult conversations. And it's not something that's really that common in this style of music unless it's religious, which we are not.
Yeah. So. Talk about all the shit that's usually swept under the rug because it makes you uncomfortable. It makes people uncomfortable. But I think it's important to talk about those really hard topics. But
Absolutely.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about that. Why don't we?
Yeah.
First, I guess we should introduce ourselves a little more. But so our band is As We Rise. We'll talk a little bit more about that after you know us a little more.
Yep. Since 2021, kind of the end of 2021. But
Do you want to talk about a little bit about you first? So you're
awkward, put on the spot. Thanks.
Yeah. Yep. This is Eric.
Yeah. So just so you know, even a little bit about us, Hannah's my wife. We're married. I definitely leveled up in life with that one. Wifey. Speaking of, just really being around people that want to do bigger things and do fun things and be able to not just work on themselves, but also offer resources for if that person chooses to want to have help while they're working on themselves. Mm-hmm. That was kind of the relationship that Hanna and I have had. And
I think we've done a lot of leveling up this year.
Yeah, we have.
In maybe smaller ways, but
Yeah.
I think the small things are adding up, and that's exactly what we've been trying to do for a long time.
Yeah. And I mean, we kind of have this mentality that, we all get judgmental and we all look at things in the world and we're like, oh, damn it. Or, fuck, this is terrible. Or this shouldn't be happening to me. I feel victimized and whatever else. But in reality, everybody is going through some shit. And nobody's shit is more important than anybody else's shit. And I try to remind myself that a lot as I'm out and maybe frustrated with drivers on the road or what.
Sometimes you got to get out of your own shit to understand other people's shit.
Or whatever it is.
We all have shit.
We all have shit. And so I think that was even more of a driving factor through COVID and through everything that we kind of, as a community, especially even as a music community, all had to deal with during that time of not knowing if music was even going to be a thing, if live music was going to go away. I had even bought like a special tube amp that first year, and I was like, oh yeah, I can't wait to use this at a show. And then holy shit, I remember playing one of the last live shows in Denver that happened in Denver County city limits. And that was just so weird to see everything shut down. So our backgrounds in music, my background in music is I played... Gosh, even as a kid, I begged my parents for a guitar, and they wouldn't give it to me. I finally went defiant, and speaking of defiant,
Spidey.
Hey, Spidey. Spidey. Come here. Hey.
Just cut the spot out.
I begged my parents for a guitar, and they weren't thinking that I was into that. Like any parent, they're like, my kid wants to play electric guitar? Fuck no. So they fought me pretty hard at first, even though to their credit, they eventually gave in, which is amazing. But
What did they buy you first?
well,
Didn't
I went out and bought, behind their back, I went and bought my own guitar amp first.
They bought something for you, a different instrument. They wanted you to do.
Oh, yeah. So I guess they, for Christmas, had bought me a piano,
That's what it was.
like a digital piano, like one of the first, probably not even digital, like one of the first keyboard things it's probably like the early 90s. And it was really not something that I wanted after I finally saw this concert out and about. And I was like, whoa, that guitar player was cool. Oh my God, I could do that. And I guess I was such a little kid, though. I don't even remember telling them I wanted a keyboard. So I don't remember that. But they eventually just said, cool, we're not going to get him a guitar, because he apparently used to want a keyboard, and then now he changed where we don't think that he's going to stick with it. So for over a year, I begged, and I finally started saving all my allowance nickels, maybe not nickels, but not a lot of money, like a couple bucks, sometimes 50 cents if my parents were really not wanting to pay out a lot. And I saved up, and I finally bought a little guitar amplifier. It was really cheap. It was like a little crate. It was awful. It sounded terrible. It was the worst sounding guitar amp I've probably ever heard. But I went and bought that, and after I got that, they were like, okay, maybe he's serious. So they did. They bought me a really awful electric guitar, because I told them, they kept asking me, acoustic guitar? I was like, no, I will not touch it.
I want to rock.
I want to rock. Metal! Yeah. And so I was like, that's really what I want. And I wasn't even into heavy music at this point. I was such a little kid. I was like 8 or 9 when this was all going on. And they finally, by 11 years old, I had an electric guitar, and I was starting to learn different things. They finally took me to somebody to give lessons, but the guy that they initially tipped me to was a country picker, and he was great country picker. But I was like, I want to learn heavier blues. Basically, I was into Stevie Ray Vaughan, and then I started really getting into Joe Satriani and Steve Vai, and it just really shifted. So we'll go back to influences in a few minutes here, but I eventually started learning some music, got semi-okay at playing some leads and knowing some scales and lots of chords, and then I kind of put it down. I didn't really do a lot with it until I met some other people that wanted to create a band. And so I put a band together in high school. And then that led to some cool shows, even in high school. And then after that, I also quit playing again for a little stint, and then picked the guitar back up. Really due to a friend being like, what are you doing? Don't squander this ability of yours. I am not able to be found on an instrument, even though they had like junior high instruction off of like instruments, and even into high school. And they were like, I never learned to play a cool instrument in their mind. So I eventually picked up the guitar and started going again. And that was when I created another band that I even kept all the way up until COVID. And, like a lot of things died in COVID, that didn't stick around. But I learned some amazing, valuable lessons through all of those experiences. And I know with that other band, we probably played over 1,500 shows, maybe even close to 1,800. It was a lot of shows over many, many years. It's crazy when you can play in a band for like over a decade and know that you went tons of places in a geographical area. So I learned a lot about what was smart to do, what was not smart to do, at least for what was going on in music marketing at the time, which we'll talk about a little more in this podcast.
Interesting.
How about you, Hannah? Let's talk about your musical background.
Yes. Well, okay, where do I even start? I guess my musical background would have started back when your feet asleep?
So asleep. Oh my God.
My mom was very musical as we grew up and taught us. We had a beautiful piano around the house that she eventually had us move into our home current home now, we would just play a lot of music. She played a lot of guitar, ukulele. We'd just sing around the house. So we just like music constantly, which was the best way to grow up. And then my brothers are 4 years younger than me, and they played a lot of music with us. So it was just a lot of singing and enjoying around the house. And then eventually I decided to try out band in middle school, and I actually played the flute first, and that was not my jam. And then I tried the trombone, which was really weird and different, and it was really fun, but it was also kind of a pain in the butt and not my jam as well. And I just realized I don't want to play instruments exactly. Like the piano I loved, but it was never something I did like in that setting. And then eventually I moved into doing choir and doing the musicals in middle school. And yeah, in high school I didn't really do a lot of music besides just like singing myself and figuring out what I enjoyed in music and just stepping out of the box a little bit and being different. And that's when I learned I liked heavier music and music that a lot of people didn't quite get at the time. And yeah, so then after that, Eric and I met years later, and I hadn't been doing a lot with music. Besides, like, I always sing. I've always sang my whole life. I've never stopped. I've always enjoyed doing that, but I never felt comfortable doing it in front of people. And then finally I decided I wanted to try out for the new band As We Rise, because they were auditioning vocalists, and all of them were not exactly what I envisioned the band to be.
Yeah. I remember being like, what do you think of this? And you were like, could I just audition? Because you had ideas, which was cool. And I remember it was really hard. The hardest thing about auditioning members for the band was I wanted somebody that would come with ideas that really wanted to step in and make them their own, but also do it in a way that honored like kind of the song, which we'll get into songwriting and all kinds of stuff here. But
and then I decided to try out. I don't think I really like thought it through at the time, to be honest, of like, I would be in a band at the time, and I would like, I don't know, I thought it'd be fun. And then once we did start doing things, I was like, oh, this is a lot of work. And I knew it was because we'd been together before with all of Eric's his band he's been in the past, and the couple others you had been. So I knew how much like effort you put into things and how much work it was. But like, I guess didn't really think it through.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
And then we did get into it, and I realized it's so much fun and totally worth all the work. And I'm grateful I did it now. It just wasn't something that I was like, I looked back and I was like, oh, that was kind of just like an on-the-spot moment thing. Like, yeah, I'll join the band, you know? And now we're like extremely, extremely invested.
Yeah. What does this mean? What is our goal in playing music? Like, what are we achieving? Are we leveling up? Are we staying the same? What is the goal of this experience, and how can we make it last a lifetime in a way that would either be a hobby or something more? And then what is our commitment to creating music? Obviously, we're creating music for ourselves, as we talked about with writing, but influences, that's a big part of
Who are your influences?
Well, and that's the funnel. I always think of that, like the more you listen to, the more that comes out and you're playing. I've always felt like it's a funnel for me. So if I'm listening to a whole bunch of metal, lots of stuff I'm going to write is really going to come out that way. Man, there are so many. I'd say probably the first heavier bands that really got my attention were really like Metallica, and at the time it was like bands like those guys and like Deftones, and eventually, Killswitch Engage came on the scene. It was probably quite a while for that, and during that whole kind of nu metal era, I always think of Seven Dust, and they're still grinding today. They're one of the most incredible live bands that exists, to ever exist. And then Hatebreed, just that's where I learned my hardcore itch. Like, I just really dug the message. I dig just the guitar riffs were incredible, and there's just something about that band that is really special. And then Spidey's drinking a 4 gallons of water in the background. Hey, buddy, save some for your brother.
This is our first podcast.
Yeah, this is our first podcast.
Slowly figure out.
We'll figure this shit out eventually. But yeah, Snot was another one that really, like, over the years has actually, I feel like I've that one's appreciated in value for me. And even being in junior high school in the jazz band, bands that had kind of like this quirky side to them always appealed to me, and that's kind of where I found my love for some of those more odd bands that weren't really a part of the mainstream, or maybe were like even at the time. Early on, I really liked their early stuff was like Incubus. It was just a band that was just like, holy cow, they're so different from what's going on right now in the music scene. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the gateway to all that stuff was even early on Stevie Ray Vaughan, and then into Steve Vai. And then I had this mentor, his name was Bill Cook. He sadly passed away as I was very young, but he inspired me to check out all kinds of different bands that really fueled me just going nuts with it. I wanted to learn anything that had somewhat of an aggressive guitar line or had some soul to it, and it just became a passion. Mm-hmm. That's cool. How about you?
Oh, I just have so many from like all over the place.
It's hard.
Yeah, it's really hard. Like female fronted, that definitely drove me and motivated me. First off was As Everything Unfolds, because they were very tiny when I first found them, and then they kind of like blew up after that, and it was cool to see a small band, female fronted, badass music, screaming in it that people really dug and blew up and wanted more of, so that drove me a lot. And then Ginger, huge, because they're just fucking
Tatiana's amazing.
Yeah. Nothing More, Wage War, freaking, of course, you know, Ashaniko.
Oh yeah, Ashaniko's the shit.
Badass bitch.
Yep.
And just, I don't know, I love her stage presence, and she's just amazing. Trivium, I Prevail, Hot Milk, Papa Roach, Mudvayne, all those.
Yeah.
Like all the good ones, and then there's
yeah, that's such an eclectic mix, too. That's a good mix.
All over the place. I was like, I got to do something that's, like, wide-ranged, because my music taste is wide-range. So.
I think it comes out in your music, though. I've really enjoyed watching you do some stuff that even takes some nod to, like, Ashaniko, or even some of that, like, we all have those gateway bands, like, you know, people kind of chuckle at some of the things that they listened to when they were really young, but like there are those bands that span generations, like Metallica, like Papa Roach, believe it or not, that do, like, even Mudvayne is now a generation spanning band where lots of younger folks are really getting into that stuff, and it's super, super cool to see. But it's amazing how that like sprinkles your music.
Yeah, exactly. All those like older bands that I used to listen to, I think back on them, like, those are hilarious, but also
in
totally,
your scene days.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, that's really funny.
I've seen a few photos. Maybe we'll share with you all at some point, because there's some funny ones. Hannah had some good looks.
I definitely have a folder somewhere, I'm sure.
It's awesome. Oh my god. Well, I think we all think back to whatever when we were like 12, 13, discovering new music and checking out new identities and
figuring out like who I was as a, like, I like heavy music, I like tattoos, I like piercings, and that people were like, who the
really? You like piercings, Hannah?
I mean, maybe just
you like tattoos.
But like people back then were like, who the like, you're weird and you're different, and I didn't feel as accepted. And now like I've been able to step more into being like, there's more people like me through music, like metal. And hi buddy. Yeah, you want to say something too, sir? Okay, so back to like As We Rise, we kind of said how it started. Yeah, I guess Eric talked a little bit about our music message too, of just like bringing community together, talking about the bigger topics that we need to talk about. Like, our first song was Prisoner. That song was like, it came at a perfect time because we wrote it about anxiety, and like all my life has been, I just have felt major anxiety and never felt like I could get out of it until I started working on myself and connecting with myself more and stepping into a band, that caused a lot of anxiety because I didn't know exactly what it'd be like being on stage. But that song came at the perfect time to kind of embody that and show what it feels like to have anxiety and what it feels like to be in a room and feel nervous. What's happening?
I've noticed that you've grown a lot since the first show that we did. I mean, an immense amount, actually.
I stood in the front with my microphone. I probably swayed side to side, and I probably barely looked at the audience, and I was so nervous, and I felt like I was gonna explode. I was so freaked out. And then I got off stage, and I think I was oh God, people fucking hated me. The band killed it. It was great, but they were like, oh, she's boring as fuck. And then I got off stage, and all these heavy metal scary looking dudes came up to me and were like, you were so good, you killed it. And I was like, oh, wow, I know. Yeah, thanks. Not fully. I appreciate it.
I do remember that dude. He had a cattle decapitation shirt on. He came up to you, and I think he was he kind of came up to you in a way that he was like grimacing as he walked towards you, and I watched you look up oh fuck, is this dude pissed at what I did? And then he was all about it. It was super cool.
And I was a metal Dorothy, so
oh yeah, that's right.
I had this cute little Dorothy skirt on.
Oh God, let's not talk about that.
I know, let's not talk about yours. I looked hot as fuck, okay?
Yeah, you looked
looked
great.
So hot for the first show.
You looked fantastic. Yes, you did.
Okay. Anyways.
Oh my God.
That cracks me up.
All right.
So yeah, band, we're all about mental health, being in the moment. We want you to come to our show, come to any shows we are playing, and just let go of anything else that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Any of the life bullshit that you have to hold on to.
We're just getting some kicks before we die. Really. I try to put that in perspective. I fail all the time in life. In so many different ways. But I always think that that's amazing because it means that I'm not just doing the same thing all the time.
Fail forward.
Yeah. And so this is something that we're well aware of. We want to have these conversations, whether it's through lyrics, whether it's through this podcast, whether it's interactions that we have with people online while sharing mental health resources, or just even people that we meet in everyday life that maybe need to talk about shit.
Yeah, somebody to be there.
But our excuse for doing this is music is, each one of these songs is very personal to us. Mm-hmm. So it's not something that even some of these songs, one of the choruses to one of the songs, I remember writing it years and years ago, that it was really something very personal that I never even knew if it would ever get played live in a live setting. So it's been kind of interesting to see how people have responded to those things and how they've used them or interpreted them in their own lives.
Yeah, definitely. That was weird.
There's a sound for it too.
The ghost was nope, you're
our
fucking
podcast
done.
got
But it was
paused.
Perfectly timed.
It was.
It was you finished talking.
We'll leave it.
Boom.
Listeners, you have to let us know. Do you think that was a ghost?
There's a ghost in the house.
Well, let's just put it this way. Our home is from 1933.
Other than that, it's an old home, and it's beautiful, and we love it. But it also has creepy things like ghosts in it. We think.
Nah, there's a ghost
dog.
Yeah, for sure.
There's definitely a ghost dog.
We absolutely think there's a ghost dog. We hear. Yep, it's crazy.
The nails.
Yep.
Okay,
right.
We get
Back
distracted
to the real
so
shit.
fast. All right, let's talk about. We won't go too much farther because I think we've been talking for a fucking long time. But
yeah,
it's
all right.
It's for the first one. I think pretty good.
Yeah.
Especially figuring out the kinks. Let's talk about some memorable gigs.
Memorable gigs.
I have mine.
Yeah, go for it.
I feel like all of our shows have very memorable parts to them, so it's not excluding any of them. There's been some that have just really stood out for specific reasons. Are you getting high?
Yeah, I am.
So are we also a 420 podcast? Because that makes me happy.
Yeah.
Okay,
we can rate our locals. Talk about it. Sure. Excuse me.
So I would say some of my most memorable gigs, I will list them all and then I'll tell you why. Would be our first EP release show. It's the Stoner podcast, but you can't cough into the mic.
I know. Sorry. I apologize.
Okay. I'll do the same thing.
As a musician, what a fail.
What a fail.
What a fail.
Thank you for playing.
Yeah.
Our first EP release show, because that one was so good. Lost Lake, and that was a year ago-ish. And then The Gothic, which we just recently played in November of 2023, I want to say. Mm-hmm. And then we kind of talked about it our very first show. We don't really have to talk about that again because, of course, it was memorable. And then all of our Foco MX shows for me. Mm-hmm. I think our EP release show was really good because, well, I think parts of it were really good. It was memorable, for sure. It was incredible overall.
The energy was good, and it was a fun time.
Energy was great.
It was raw. Let's call it that.
It was a rough show for Eric and I. And that's because the night before, I think Spidey had gotten into some coffee grounds or something. He ate a whole bunch of coffee grounds, was puking all night long. We stayed up all night dealing with a sick dog.
Puke and steam cleaning. That's all we did.
I think we got any sleep.
I slept an hour.
Yeah.
1 hour.
Like an hour, maybe 30 minutes.
I remember being, I'm glad we have photographs from that show and we even have a video of it, but I don't remember doing it very much.
No, I feel like the video is awesome. Mm-hmm. And like seeing it was awesome, but I also feel the same way where like I remember bits and pieces of it. And then some of it I'm like, holy fuck, that went fast.
Yeah. I'm just making sure you're not scooting back too far.
I'm not. I'm talking.
You're vibing.
I'm vibing. We're vibing.
Oh, Cooper's down. He's like,
Cooper's
we're vibing.
Okay.
All right.
So weird.
But yeah, I absolutely think that show was good for a couple reasons. Vocally, do I think it was our best performance? Bleh. Not at all. I think that was, I just remember being just so thirsty all day because, when you stay up all night and you over caffeinate, you're just like depleted of water. And I remember being on the stage, and that's probably the only real memory I have is that I was having trouble hearing myself in the monitors, of course, story of our lives. But I know for a fact that I just was really struggling to hit notes. And that's such a sad thing. We'll talk about that at some other point, though. But as far as the shows that I really think of as far as memorable gigs, all the Foco MX shows are that first Foco MX show, though, for me. Hi, Cooper. We played at Surfside for our first Foco MX show, and it was just fucking ruckus. It was rowdy. There were a lot of different people, musicians, tons of people that had never heard of us before.
People couldn't get in the door.
Yeah, it was packed out the door.
Tiny place.
Which is so common at Foco MX because people are just literally, they're like, cool, let's go check out a bunch of different bands. And when you do that and you have a bunch of people that are checking out a bunch of different bands, you get this kind of crossover of all these different people that are like, cool, I have a half an hour until this band plays. I'm going to stop into this place because I just walked by and checked it out because it's all in a close proximity. It was just such a cool festival. 350 bands this year, by the way. Let's talk about that. April 19th, so that's coming up next weekend.
Mm-hmm. Friday.
Yep.
8 p.m.
Yep.
Whoop, whoop. Whoop, whoop. And then we do an after party on Sunday.
Oh, yeah. Fun. That's right. We love the little underground after parties. They're fun.
Yes.
So Acorn Delight, speaking of, is an incredible one that we got to play with Sludge Broker. They're an awesome local band. Check them out if you get the chance on Instagram. Gosh, I feel like every one of the Coast shows that we ever played was just a blast. They have new ownership now. Sad Billy's gone.
R.I.P. Billy ownership.
Yep. super sad. But we're hoping that that'll open up some opportunities for some more bands to get up here from all over the place. Hopefully they're super local friendly. We're hoping for that one.
Yes. And then let's talk about just like really fast. Do you want to talk about goals for
Sure.
the band really fast?
Yeah.
Like, what do you have for yourself or the band short term?
I just traded a guitar for another guitar. So
How did I know it was going to be guitar related?
I went to Wyoming yesterday. We went to Wyoming, and I traded a guitar that I just wasn't vibing with. I really liked it. I'm a big Ibanez fan, and it wasn't my jam. It just didn't work for what I was trying to do, and he really wanted a certain 6-string, so it was a perfect trade, and I got a really cool old school. It's a 1999 Ibanez 7-string that I already kind of have a different model of that one.
What's the color called?
Vampire Kiss. It's really beautiful.
And just stare at it.
Yeah, it's pretty. We're staring at it right now. But I need to intonate that guitar, and once I intonate that guitar, I have a feeling that it'll be a guitar that I keep, because it's just some of those old Japanese-made guitars are just incredible. They're tanks, they're workhorses, and they play like butter. So I just having access to another one of those, like, it was a no-brainer, even whether I didn't keep this guitar and ended up selling it. But if it plays incredible, I'll get rid of something else that I have. But anyway, that's another story for another day. Long-term goal, when I think of
You're gonna get to my short term.
well, yeah, do your short term then.
No,
Yeah.
get to your long term. I'm curious.
No, I long term, I really want to fully just play a couple different songs that I've really wanted to play for quite some time.
And just learn them deeper.
There's just deeper. I also want to start writing in different ways with you guys. There's all kinds of different things that I think of long-term goals that sound really amazing, that are super fun, that I want to try out. And some of it was what we talked about earlier, just with what we did last week and getting in a room and playing live and coming up with riffs live. I think we strayed from that so far, and I did even in my last band for a really long time. So it's really cool to have an environment that fosters that.
Mm-hmm. What Eric's kind of talking about is we watched a really cool show on YouTube that was really fast called Musician Mansion. Check it out if you want to.
Yeah.
But it...
What up, Jared Dines?
It gave us a cool idea to just like... each episode they did something different, and they put people together into groups, into like bands, separate people, which was really cool. And then they just like threw them in a room to make a song in a certain amount of hours. So we were like, okay, let's go do that at band practice sometime, and actually just put one song together in that time and give us that limited amount and see what we could create. And we kind of started on it. It was like a really fast one because it was the end of practice, but I think we'll still do it in a deeper way. But even just doing that, getting riffs out, that was really cool to kind of see what we all jived with. That was just random and a different way to write. So I think we'll do that more in the future.
Yeah.
My short-term goals would be, honestly, just to set free our mystery bags at Foco MX that we all created, which is really exciting.
Yes. And then the next weekend at Moe's in Denver.
And, well, not even the next weekend. We have the after party for Foco MX on Sunday.
Yes.
And then we have the Moe's barbecue on the 27th. And then
Heavy
we have
meow-tal night.
Heavy meow-tal. And then we have, May the 4th be with you.
Yep, we'll be back up in
Is that
Fort
on the
Collins.
5th or the 4th?
4th. May the 4th.
Okay, I thought so.
May the 4th Carnage
Okay.
be with you.
There you go. And then
Shout out Blasty.
Yeah, Blasty. And then my long-term goals, I want to see our band tour eventually. Our band reach a wider audience and hopefully impact more people in a positive way who need it.
I did book our first festival in a faraway place this year, which we'll talk about later, but it'll be fun.
Cool things coming.
Yep.
And then we have a couple things we'll kind of talk about later on in the podcast.
Yeah.
I think what's coming is just talking about big topics and exciting things that we want to talk about. Kind of just hang out in our conversation and see where it goes.
Yeah.
You have anything exciting you want to talk about in the future? I know we have a whole list of things.
Oh my gosh. I'm just excited that it's really cool when you and I can have a day off together and do something like this and talk about goals and music. I can talk about music pretty much anytime. So
especially when, like, we've been talking about this forever and we finally did it.
Yeah.
Sorry. Hope that I didn't hurt your ears too bad. I gotta control my weird noises.
Hannah's like R2D2.
Thanks.
She makes noises all the time. Yep. You're like an anime character. It's unreal.
My God, I appreciate it. Well, thanks for hanging out with us.
Yeah,
thank you. Goodness. We'll get some kinks figured out in the ghosties. Hopefully, we'll just talk to them and tell them, hey, stop pausing our podcast at weird times, bro.
Yeah, that's happened a few times.
And the dogs, we'll figure that out. The loud noises. We're getting there. But thanks for hanging out with us.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
We love you all. It's As We Rise.
As We Rise.
Love you all so much.
Yeah, have a good day.
Bye.